Welcome to episode 6 of the PDS podcast. In today's episode, we'll be chatting all about severe weather, tornado, blizzards, northern lights, and more with our special guest. But before we get started, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor for today's episode, Miracle Dent Repair. We'll hear a little bit more about them later in the show. Also, if you're watching us live right now, just remember that this is the raw and uncut version of the podcast, which means you may see or hear some things that don't make it into the final episode. Also, during the break, you'll have an opportunity to ask today's guests some questions of your own. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Our special guest for today is Jayjack. Aaron is a professional storm chaser and photographer working for MyRadar. Aaron tracks down the world's wildest weather, from tornadoes to hurricanes, blizzards, floods, and even northern lights and space weather. Welcome to the show, Aaron. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the whole show here, I just wanted to mention that you were chasing the recent quad state supercell that wreaked havoc across multiple communities on the night of December 10th. And unfortunately, it caused quite a bit of damage and a loss of life. Many towns of across Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. A tornado like that doesn't occur very often, thankfully, but could you tell us a little bit more about what your experience was on the ground during that?
Yeah, so I got into Memphis the night before that all that went down, and stayed the night there in Memphis and was watching the models. You know, it looked like a big day coming up, moderate risk. I think the night before it was 10%, maybe it wasn't 10% hatched the night before, but the morning of the event, it was a 10% hatched. Eventually it got upgraded to a 15% hatched. It was a real warm day. You know, it was odd because it felt like a spring day and we're in December, but a really warm day and really strong inflow, low level jet ripping across the atmosphere there. So I was targeting northeast Arkansas and sure enough, some storms fired there. They actually fired southwest of Little Rock, so southwest of my location in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And so this supercell you mentioned, quad state, and it crossed 4 states, started in Arkansas, crossed the Missouri boot heel, through Tennessee, the northwest corner of Tennessee, and then into Kentucky. And I got on it in Jonesboro, Arkansas area, and tracked the storm all the way to the Mississippi River, I-55, where Missouri boot heel goes back into Tennessee. And that ends up being the first tornado. There's 2 long tracks there. So I was on that first one.
That's insane.
Yeah. Not too often something like that happens that late in the year.
No, I mean, it was crazy, right? Like it was, and it ends up being probably the biggest, outbreak of the year, arguably. And it's in December. So
just sneaking in under the wire.
Yeah, exactly.
Took 2021 a little bit of time to get going.
Yeah. And then just 5 days later, we had that next event on the 15th. Big derecho formed, and then I think it was the most wind warnings ever issued in a single day by the National Weather Service. Yeah, tornado warnings in Iowa, into Minnesota, even Nebraska, where the storms initially fired. And then on the backside, you had that winter storm warning. So 2 of the biggest days of the year within a week in mid-December.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wild how the winter can follow a storm like that.
Oh yeah, well you get that it was a big low pressure and it gets that cold air wrapping around, and then you get that winter side part of it on the backside there.
Yeah, that was wild.
Especially for Iowa and Minnesota in December.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the tornado watch box and there's snow on the ground, and
I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw that they're showing the ground and snowbanks where they shoveled their driveway, but we're in a tornado warning.
Yeah, exactly right. I ended up in Albert Lee, Minnesota at one point, and with the tornado sirens going and Christmas decorations swaying around in the wind. So
that's insane.
Yeah,
so
and then
weird.
2 hours later was the winter. I drove a little bit northwest of there, just northwest of Minneapolis, and just 2 hours later, I was in winter storm warning with 60-mile-an-hour winds and blowing snow. So crazy weather here in December.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of that, many storm chasers are focused more on severe weather, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. However, you seem to really enjoy chasing winter storms and blizzards just as much. Can you tell me what was it that attracted you to start chasing winter weather?
Well, I grew up in northern Indiana, right on Lake Michigan. So we used to get big time snowstorms there, lake effect snow. Yeah, that's what kind of got me into weather was, living in that area and getting in these survival situations where we get snowed in for 2 weeks at a time. So that's kind of where my love for winter weather developed. And then I spent 15 years in central Texas, and real warm there and not a lot of snow, and didn't chase as much snow during that time or see as much snow. So once I got into eventually started getting into the blizzards later on. So
What do you find the toughest part about chasing a blizzard?
I guess trying to stay warm is probably the toughest part. I use the same vehicle. I've got a Subaru Crosstrek, and it's got all-terrain tires and all-wheel drive, and which is great for chasing tornadoes and driving down muddy and dirt roads. And it works just as well in the snow. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of comparison between those Kansas, Texas mud roads and our winter weather up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were to say, I should say, what's the strongest or worst blizzard you've ever chased?
Probably a couple of years ago, I was in Cut Bank, Montana. So right up against the mountains there, you go through the pass there, and you're in Washington State. So we're a real extreme northwest Montana.
Mhm.
I think we got it was like 33 inches of snow or something like that. And
Holy cow.
blowing winds. So, like 60-mile-an-hour winds. So big time drifts, big time piles of snow. Everything was shut down for sure. And so that was probably the biggest one I've been in. But I really, I had my eye on trying to get to an East Coast or eastern part of the United States, lake effect, in New York. I think it's Buffalo. I think gets some big dumps there.
Yeah.
Off of Lake Erie and whatnot. So that's bucket list chase I've got. I want to see 3 or 4 feet of snow.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Well, if that's a bucket list, do you prefer chasing summer storms or winter storms?
Definitely the summer storms. It's just I just like chasing. So if there's nothing else to chase, I might as well chase the blizzards and the winter storms.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So if you had a most important piece of advice for someone who finds themselves stuck in a blizzard, what would that be?
Oh, geez. We'll have plenty of food and water on hand would be number one. And, supplies to make sure you have plenty of good warm clothing. And, I like these little, they're called Crustables. They're little peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that are pre-made in packages. Those are great for chasing blizzards, for being in a blizzard.
Enough calories to get you through the night.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever gotten the Crosstrek stuck in the blizzard?
One time I did get stuck. It was shortly after I got it. The only reason I got stuck is because it bottomed out and I got into too deep of snow. And so I just sat there, just kind of elevated off the ground, and it started spinning.
That's the worst.
Yeah. So, and then eventually I got a 2-inch lift on the Crosstrek.
Oh.
And after I put the lift on it, it gave me that extra 2 inches of clearance. I didn't get stuck anymore. But the problem with the lift is I started just destroying axles on my Subaru. So I'd get 60,000 miles on a set of CV axles, and it's like a $1,200 job every time to get those changed out. Yeah. So I've gone through the original axles, and then got those fixed and got another pair of axles. And then just this past fall, I was fed up with it. And when I went to go get new axles installed, I had them remove the lift as well. So I don't have to deal with that anymore. So I'm hoping I can get another 130, 200,000 miles on this set of axles.
But now you might get stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Now I might get stuck. I do keep one of those little shovels though in the back. So
those little
scenario.
Those little folding ones?
Yeah, exactly. It's got an extendable handle. Yeah.
Yeah, those are handy.
A little emergency shovel. So.
So it was a few years ago that you moved up to Canada to be with your now fiance, Michaela.
Yeah.
And you've really been getting into the photography of the Northern Lights. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what you do?
Yeah, so I had seen the Northern Lights once before when I was a kid in Indiana. Actually, it was such a good show that it was overhead, flickering lights overhead, even in Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, that was it was like 1990 or something like that. And I think it was related to that. Around that time, there was a major solar event that actually, I think, took out some power in the East Coast, even Canada, took out some of the electrical grid. It was such a strong storm. But anyway, so that's the first time I had seen them, and the only time I had seen them until Michelle and I met in 2019, and then we met before that. But when we started, dating in 2019, we were storm chasing one time, and then that night there was expected to be Northern Lights, and so we went out, and she was chased the Northern Lights quite a bit before that, and was a pro at that. And so we went out and had an amazing show. It was I think it may have been a G3 show in 2019, August 2019. At least it was like a KP5, I believe, maybe even higher than that. But an amazing show. And and then I seeing that was like, it was just mind blowing to see that. And so ever since then I've been really hooked on that. And the only problem is that it's difficult because of this at this time of year, at least, with how cold it is out there. Your cameras die, the battery dies, and all that. And plus, you don't want to go out there.
Lots of batteries, and keep them inside, close to your body.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for sure. So has Michelle given you any special spots that you love to shoot Northern Lights at now? Giving you any of her secret areas?
I mean, she's taken me to some of them. I've seen them. She's got all kinds of locations that she's got in her little black book of abandoned houses and whatnot. But she always gives me a hard time because I don't go for foregrounds. I don't pick foregrounds. I just don't think about it like she does, right? And so, like, even with my storm photography, it's just a lot of times it's just a field or whatever in my shot, and not a good foreground. So, I know where the spots are at. But even just last show in November, I didn't really have I found some trees. That was my foreground. So the foregrounds aren't my forte. So.
Do you have any special equipment you have dedicated for Aurora chasing?
Yeah, I mean, so I have my my XT2. It's a still camera. I have it with I got a nice prime lens that I wanted for astrophotography, and it works out for the Northern Lights. And I use it for my time lapses and storm photography. But I mean, that's my main camera is a XT2 with a 16 millimeter prime lens on it. Fuji nice. XT2, yeah. Awesome. And then, but obviously, I use the different tools like to check cloud cover and whatnot before it gets dark. Visible satellite, they'll see if where a spot in the in the sky might, or out in the open might be with no clouds. In fact, that chase, that geomagnetic storm that Michelle and I shot in 2019, we had to drive like an hour and a half northwest to a spot that we had looked at visible satellite and forecasted that there was likely clear skies where we went, and sure enough, we got clear skies, and then the lights went bonkers. So
nice. Yeah, there's nothing worse than a really high KP night and things are going crazy and you got cloud cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Seems to be the thing around here lately for sure.
Yeah.
So is there one special night that stands out above all the rest for you since you've kind of started chasing Aurora?
Yeah, I mean, definitely this past storm in November 3rd, the night of the 3rd into the 4th. I mean, it was even better than that one in August 2019 with the flickering going on overhead and whatnot. So, I mean, that's after seeing that, it's hard to just go out for a KP4, just a week show, especially when it's negative 30 degrees Celsius out. So.
Yeah, bit of a deterrent.
Yeah.
Besides the cold, what would you say is the biggest difficulty with trying to go out and shoot Aurora?
The thing I struggle with the most is getting a shot in focus.
Yes.
I mean, I'm banging I feel like every time I don't get it in focus, like as good as focus as it should be, I just really struggle with
it. If you go back to the last episode with Shannon, she had a trick where you focus your camera in the daylight with autofocus on something, and then you use one of those silicone bracelets and you slide it over the focus ring so it can't
lock
move.
it.
Yeah.
Well, so my 16 millimeter prime does have focus lock, so I can lock it. It's got it built into the lens. So I just don't ever think about doing that before it's time.
You're like me. I don't pre-plan my chase very well for Aurora. I just see that it's going to be good, and I head out after dark.
Exactly, that's what I do.
In your pajamas, and the phone starts dinging.
Yeah.
I guess we better go.
There's been lots of times I've been already crawling into bed, and I get an Aurora notification. Oh crap, gotta go out.
Yeah, right. That's tough.
So, do you have any tips for someone who has never seen the Aurora before and wants to try to see it for the first time?
Yeah, get north of the U.S. border, get into Canada, drive as far north as you can go, and and especially if it's an active period like has been lately. If you get you could go up into probably like the extreme northern parts of Canada, into Alaska, even Norway and way out Iceland, and you'll probably see Aurora almost every night. Right now, so
yeah,
it might not be as good of a show as we had, but like last night, I think it was a decent. I saw some shots out of Norway, I think it was, and it was some reds and some nice greens and some pillars, and the data wasn't that good. So
yeah, I think I saw. What was it? It got up to KP4 for a bit, I think, last night. But
again, it's just so cold. It's pretty hard to will yourself to go outside.
Yeah, exactly.
You spend all day shoveling and blowing snow.
Basically it takes like a KP5 plus right now to get out there in that cold.
Yeah,
it better be guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was cloudy and snowing here last night anyway, so I wouldn't have gone out anyways.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're in Portage, so it was actually a little clear here, I thought, last night for a little while anyway. But then I saw some clouds off to the southwest moving over. So yeah.
I don't know what it was like here in Portage. It might have been clear here, but I was working in Winnipeg all night, so it was cloudy and snowy there. And yeah. I guess that takes us to our first break, doesn't it, Curtis?
Look at that. We're actually on time.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, if anybody that's watching has any questions for Aaron, now's your time to ask them. And we'll take a break, grab another drink, and get back in a few minutes.
So yeah, if you have any questions, just comment them on whatever platform you're watching on, and we'll make sure to ask Aaron.
That first section went pretty quick.
That's an appropriate amount of time.
Yeah.
We usually end up running late.
Did you like the new countdown?
I did.
Bless you.
I'm trying. I'm really trying to get the sneeze out before you have to edit it out.
It's break time. I have to edit this out anyways.
Oh, I'm back. I was having some network issues there, it seems like.
Oh, I thought you were just sitting there.
No.
Well, I thought it was awfully rude when you were an answering, Jordan.
I just had black screens and it was spinning, so there was some kind of weird network issue there for a second.
Oh, weird. Yeah, no, it just showed you sitting there for us. There's a couple times where your camera was freezing up during the show there, but your audio was fine.
Maybe I should switch to 480.
Might help.
There, I got my sneezes out.
Yeah, I thought I'd add some cool sound to the end of the countdown there. I saw your little smirk when it came on.
I giggled.
All right, I'm gonna go grab another coffee quick while we're on break.
no questions coming through. I can't believe no one's going to ask about Buc-ee's or any of your food reviews.
How many people are watching?
13. So, 11. Oh, come on, guys. But that's only what we can see here. Through Jordan's or the Manitoba Storm Chaser Facebook. There's a bunch that doesn't actually populate here and tell us.
I see.
He can see it from his Facebook dashboard, I believe.
Yeah, nice.
So you got rid of the lift kit. You're totally gonna get stuck, man.
Yeah, I just have to be careful, I guess, and avoid the deep drifts. I could have avoided the time I got stuck, but I was like, I kind of wanted to test the Subaru out, so I just blasted right through. I was looking for the deepest drift I could find, and I ended up getting stuck. So,
you've been happy with that though?
Yeah, it's good. It gets good gas mileage, and the traction, the all-wheel drive, and all that's great. So,
awesome.
Yeah,
I need to upgrade the minivan from to something different. So, always wondering what other people are driving.
Yeah. The Subaru's been great. It's not big; it's a small little car, but that's why it gets good gas mileage, and it's got plenty of power for what I need. I'm not hauling anything with it or anything, so.
Well, I'll have to look into that.
I'd like to get one of those Tesla Cybertrucks for my next chase vehicle, if I could.
Oh, could you imagine?
Yeah, that'd be badass, but
oh,
I think,
yeah.
I want to. The only problem is the mileage, the distance that you can go on them, right? So, like, I think right now, like if you have it maxed out, you can get around 500 miles maybe on one of those on the Cybertruck, or you're supposed to.
Okay.
But
how long does it take to charge?
That's the thing, is it'd be like an overnight charge after that. So I was thinking like around 700 miles or so. Then it might be possible to storm chase with one.
Yeah, if you were in the area, it would be fine.
Yeah,
but if you had to travel any distance to get to it,
well, that's in some chases I've gone 900 miles in a day. I've driven 600-700 miles to a target area, then chase for a couple hundred miles. So.
Yeah, electric cars aren't quite where they need to be for chasing yet, I don't think.
Yeah, they're getting there though. Battery technology's improving and all that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Did you see that comment from Norman? Buddy of his lost 21 cars from his collection in that last setup there.
Oh man,
that last storm.
That's the Quad State one?
No, that's the Duratio.
Jesus.
Glenville, Minnesota, had a storm come through, lost 21 cars from his collection. That's insane.
So with the electric cars, we should be able to put a lightning rod on the roof and charge them automatically when we get struck.
I locked up again for. Now you guys are locked up.
Oh
no, you guys are good. Never mind.
I just saw your message in the private chat about that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all the red dots I've got over here.
It's rural internet.
I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
As much as I would love to live rural, I love in-town internet.
Yeah.
As soon as Starlink's available, it's available in Regina. It's available in Killarney. It's available in Kelowna, but it is not available here yet.
Oh, jeez.
Just Killarney. If you have to live in Killarney and you can get it.
I know a guy that lives in Killarney that has it.
Oh, okay.
So it's like those places, but you can draw a straight line through them all, and it goes right through here. But it doesn't work here, so I don't get it.
Weird.
Well, it's still in like beta mode, isn't it?
No, it's out of beta now.
Or is it?
They just moved to full production.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I saw those satellites come over one night, like a year and a half or so ago. I was sitting outside and look up, and there's this just long line of lights. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see.
No, that's there. That's
Yeah,
I'm seeing that.
and they kept coming too, and wouldn't stop. Like, it was ridiculous the number that were going by. So
Yeah.
Little
Yeah, I
mini
think
panic attack.
yeah,
I think each launch was something like 60 or 70 satellites at a time or something like that.
yeah,
That's pretty insane.
yeah. I think they have like 900 of them up there or something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they're only visible like that the first few days after launch.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's so. I guess they have some sort of coating on them that makes them not.
Retroreflective coating now.
Yeah, non-reflective. So once they get a certain height in the atmosphere in their orbit, they basically turn invisible, and you don't see them anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Because the first batch they launched didn't have that on it. People were getting pretty upset with it wrecking the night sky.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like it really, especially if you're like a night sky photographer, it really messes with photos a lot of times because all of a sudden you got this big friggin' line of satellites across your picture. And,
Yeah.
So
figure out what page we're on here. We're coming back from.
We're at the bottom of page 2.
21 questions.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I guess if nobody has any questions for Aaron,
Well,
we will.
I will. While we're in the break, I'll ask him. What is your
Okay.
favorite place to stop and eat while you're storm chasing in the States? Because you do
Ooh,
all these food
that's a good
reviews.
one.
You've got to have a favorite.
Yeah, my favorite is it's breakfast in Goodland, Kansas, at a place called Good Grounds Coffee, and they have great coffee and really good biscuits and gravy. And so when you're in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, it's not easy to find good coffee. Biscuits and gravy you can find fairly easily, but good coffee is not as easy to find. So it's my favorite place to stop, right off of I-70 in Goodland, Kansas. So
You'll have to write that down, Jordan.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know you don't like Kroll's Diner.
yeah, yeah. They don't like me anymore either.
I actually quite like that place. We stopped at the one in Minot.
Oh, is it a chain?
I think there's two. There's one in Bismarck and Minot.
Yeah,
there's one in Grand Forks as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Grand Forks or Fargo, one of those. I've stopped at it a time or two, but usually I just grab a poutine there.
So it's like a North Dakota chain then.
Yeah. You said Goodland, Kansas for that?
Yeah,
that one?
Yeah, that's right. Good Grounds Coffee in Goodland, Kansas.
Nice. That's probably the sketchiest hotel I've ever stayed at chasing was in Goodland, Kansas.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was sketchy. It's that one we were talking about with Shannon with the screaming banshee fan.
Oh, yeah.
The scariest hotel I've stayed in is in Tucumcari, New Mexico. There's not a lot of places to stay in New Mexico, so it's pretty sketch.
Usually when I'm chasing New Mexico, I end up staying in Texas.
Yeah. The best place I've found to stay in New Mexico actually is Roswell. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, there's some cool places in Roswell.
Yeah.
Roswell's just a cool town in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like Roswell. But yeah, this hotel we stayed at, it was myself, Braden Morso, Tom Smetana, and Shannon Bolesky. And Tom and Shannon were sharing a room. And their first room, I think it was their first room, there was like the beds were just like messy and dirty and gross and whatever. So they got their room changed. And then their second room, I think it was Shannon went to go into the bathroom and she flicked the light switch on, and all of a sudden the fan in the bathroom just starts squealing like a friggin' banshee. She sends me this video and I've still got it somewhere on my phone, but it was hilarious. And then Tom ended up friggin' taking the switch off the wall, going in there and disconnecting the wire from the fan, because anytime you'd go to the bathroom, it would just be this loud yeah, it was terrible. And then there was something wrong with my room. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it was an experience to say the least. Ooh, Joe has a good question for Aaron. What's your chase music type?
Ooh, That's a good one. So I guess it kind of changes from time to time, but I was on a kick there for a couple of years, and I still kind of am. But I would listen to there's a station on satellite radio, number 53, the chill station, so kind of like electronic chill music. So I kind of listened to that for a while. But I you're on the road so much, you got to mix it up a lot. So I like a lot of 80s and classic rock and stuff like that. So
hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've got like 5 new questions here for the next show. This is good. It's been a very productive break.
Right on. Well, with that being said, I will play our sponsored ad, and then we'll get back to the show. Oh, clicked the wrong button there.
Hail damage. It can happen at any time, and when it does, bring it to the hail repair specialists at Miracle Dent, because dents are what we do. Our paintless dent repair process maintains your original factory finish with no repainting or parts to order. You'll have your vehicle with its original factory paint back in no time like it never happened. If Mother Nature has put a dent in your summer, come to Miracle Dent Repair. Dents are what we do.
Miracle Dent Repair.
I've got some dents.
They chirped me for my birthday post that Jordan put up because I was wearing a Rough Rider hat. They almost pulled their sponsorship because of it.
Wow.
So if they send me a Bombers hat, I will wear it on the podcast.
It needs to be a Bombers hat with a little MDR logo on it, though.
Yes, absolutely. So now that
Tyler,
we're back,
Tyler, if you're watching, you heard that.
Oh, that would kill me. Please don't. So now that we're back, it's time for 21 questions, where we get to learn all about Aaron's life as a storm chaser. So my favorite part about us having this podcast is I get to ask all these people who actually know how to chase storms what their secret weapon is. So the day of a chase, what are you looking at? Like what weather models, what parameters, what do you look at that, that's the key. You see that and you have to go.
Well, so I use the weather models, the high res one, so the HRRR and the NOM 3KM. So that's pretty much how my day starts off. I'll start looking at the models and looking for the ingredients that are going to bring tornadoes. Shear, lift, instability, and moisture. I'm big on moisture, so you're not going to get anything if you don't have enough moisture. So generally, I follow the nose of the moisture. But also I take into consideration, depending on where I'm at. Every chase is different, but like for example, in the southeast states, I'm going to take roads into consideration and stuff because there isn't a good road network, and it's there's lots of trees and stuff like that. So I play. I try to put myself in the best position a lot of times that if I want to be within an hour of where a storm might form so that I can get to it before it hits peak maturity, right? So sometimes I have, I'm looking at 2 different spots for any given day that might produce tornadoes. So I might strategically place myself in a position to where I can keep both of those targets in play. But a lot of that is most of it, the stuff that I'm doing is now casting. So you look at the models and you can get an idea of where the storms might fire, but I'm watching radar as a day progresses, and the first product I usually start with is the echo tops. So watching the echo tops, looking for the updraft. Hopefully I'm in. I've positioned myself well enough to where I'm just looking at a dry line, for example. Dry lines are a little easier because they're easier to find. But when you have a system or a setup where you have a big open warm sector, and it could span hundreds of miles, I'm watching the echo tops because I'm looking to see what storm is going to take off and be that mature storm that is if whatever storm has the highest tops is likely going to be the storm of the day. Not necessarily, but more 9 times out of 10, that first storm that's really it's got the big tops on it and is exploding is going to be a good storm to get on. Now that storm could die, or maybe it crosses a warm front or something like that and dies. And so then, I'm watching for stuff like that as well. So it's mostly looking at models, get myself into a good position to where I can easily attack a target, and then watching nowcasting and watching the radar and then honing in from there.
Awesome.
So you're on the road quite a bit chasing, but what do you like to do when you're not busy chasing?
So I actually I like trees, bonsai trees. I got a little bit of green thumb, so
Nice.
I kind of do that. It's a nice relaxing activity. But it's other than hobbies, most of my time, when I'm not chasing, it's just be spending time with family. And Michelle and I have a son, Jet. So it's a lot of family time, biking with the family, camping with the family. It's storm chasing even potentially. So
Right on.
And Jet absolutely has your hair.
yeah, he does. Totally has my hair. Yeah.
We had a meeting with Michelle a couple weeks ago when she was going to be co-hosting the last episode there, and Jet was making an appearance on screen, and I gotta say that kid has the most adorable laugh I have ever heard.
Yeah, he does.
right from the bottom of the belly.
Yeah, totally.
So this is a tough question, but what do you enjoy the most about storm chasing?
What do I enjoy the most? I guess it's just the sense of adventure, getting out there, and you never know, what's going to happen and where you're going to end up, seeing all these little towns or places that you otherwise never would have went to or seen, but storm chasing takes you through them. And I think that's probably my favorite thing, because anybody can go to New York City, or people go to big cities and whatnot, but
yeah,
all these little towns, they can have something special about them too, and nobody ever goes to them. But as a storm chaser, you end up going through a lot of these little towns. So
yeah, I really enjoy like the old Western style towns that you can find in a lot of the more southern states. They're pretty cool to travel through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop and grab a coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
So how did you get interested in storm chasing? Like, do you have any professional training in meteorology or anything like that?
Yeah, so I originally, I went to college at Purdue University, and I was accepted at Purdue and as a meteorologist, going for a meteorologist degree. And I did that for the first year, and they kind of weeded me out. I took the class, and they were talking about tornadoes. I'm like, oh, this is great, and then they told me that I'd make about 15 grand a year for the first 20 years. And I was like, I'm out. I was like, what the hell am I doing here if I'm going to make, only make 15 grand a year for 20 years? So I ended up changing degrees. But I was always into weather. I was always a curiosity of mine. Then the movie Twister came out in '96 before I was in college, when I was in high school. And so that really got me, I didn't even know, I had watched a lot of Weather Channel growing up. And so I had seen that there were guys out there shooting videos, but I didn't realize that there were, actual storm chasers. And then Twister actually made me realize, oh, there's actually storm chasers out there doing this.
This is a thing.
Yeah.
People do this.
Exactly. So then from there, it just took off from there. There was, and living in Indiana, you don't get really that good of severe weather. I still remember the first supercell I ever saw. I was 18 and working at McDonald's. Or maybe I was 17. I was in high school working at McDonald's. I was working the drive-through, and a severe weather tornado warning came through. I didn't even know what a supercell was at the time, but I remember looking out the window and looking. I guess I knew what a supercell was, but I had never seen one. Right? I was sitting at the drive-through, and I'm looking out the drive-through window, and I just see the big updraft and the big anvil head going, shooting up into the atmosphere, and I could actually see it rotating and growing. I was like, oh my God, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Right. And from there, it just took off from there. And then eventually after college, I moved to Austin, Texas. So that got me closer to Tornado Alley. And then that's when I really, started, I started chasing in Texas, and then eventually I just continued to, I need to go further and see more. And, and until I quit my job and started chasing full time.
So if that was your first supercell, what was your first tornado?
I had seen some weak ones in Texas, like around 2007, 2008. They weren't really memorable. The most memorable one that I had saw was around 2000. It was 2012, April 14th, 2012 outbreak, Heston, Kansas. It was a high risk day. And it was all the way from Kansas all the way through Oklahoma. This just giant high risk area, and there's supercells one after another. These, big comma shaped supercells ripping across Kansas and Oklahoma. Multiple tornado warnings all day, and so that was the first really good tornado that I captured. And it just seeing that, it was just really gave me the itch to see more. So
it's like getting tattoos. Once you get one, you want more.
Exactly.
So you told us a little bit about your chase vehicle already, but can you tell us, why you like that vehicle? Do you have any special chasing equipment installed in it or anything like that?
Yeah, so I don't really have any special equipment. I'll answer that first. Just dash cams that hold up my cameras. But what I really like about the vehicle, it's two things. It's that it can go anywhere. I don't get stuck. I can go anywhere in it, basically, the all-wheel drive. I have some good tires on there as well. And also it gets great gas mileage. So for, the trade-off is if you want a bigger vehicle, you're going to just be eating the gas, right? And so I like it's a good compromise for size, good handle, it's good for getting to where I need to go, and doesn't use a lot of gas. So
right on. Yeah, trust me, I know all about the gas thing.
Well, I used to drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee, a V8 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and so it wasn't too bad. It got like 18 to 20 miles per gallon, I think, on the highway, which isn't too bad, but
it's not terrible. Yeah. So in 2019, you hopped into Dominator 3 with Reed Timmer, Sean Schofer, and the rest of Team Dominator, and actually helped them launch their first ever rocket probe into the Lawrence Kansas EF4 tornado. Can you tell us what that experience felt like?
Yeah, so that was a crazy day. It was the first time, not the first time, but I guess it was the third time, because we had spent a couple of days trying to track down tornadoes. I was in the Dominator, Colorado a couple of days before that. We were chasing a couple tornado warnings, no tornadoes. And then there was another day I was in it after that, I think. But I had my Jeep as well, so I was kind of caravanning with them, and we dropped my Jeep off, leave it somewhere while during the chase, and then chase. So that day we started off, we were in eastern Kansas, so near Kansas City, which you said Lawrenceville is where the tornado was Lawrenceville, right? Is what it was, right?
I think it's Lawrence. At least that's what I have.
Or just Lawrence. Okay. Yeah, it was just Lawrence. Yeah. So just southwest of Kansas City, just outside of Kansas City. So we had dropped my Jeep off at a Love's truck stop somewhere over there along the interstate. I hopped in the Dominator, and we saw this big supercell form. Again, we were watching the Echo Tops and see this big supercell exploding down to the southwest coming up our way. So we dropped south down to it, and we got off this main highway south of Lawrence, got off the highway, pushed in a little west, and watched this storm approaching us. And I think it was tornado warned at this point, but not producing a tornado. And it comes over the top of us, so we repositioned to the east. And as it comes over the top of us, really started producing a couplet on radar. No tornado yet, but you could see the rain curtains swirling around overhead. Crossed the road and went out into some fields and a bad road network. So we weren't able to keep up with it, especially with the Dominator. Can't really go on small little muddy roads or anything, right? So it's a tank basically. So we blasted east, got to this main highway that runs up to Lawrence, and watching it on radar, and it really starts producing its tornadic signature, a big couplet on radar. And so we're like, oh, this thing's definitely producing, but you couldn't see anything. It was really rain wrapped. So we blasted north towards Lawrence, try and get into that inflow region just north of the rotation, so we could look back in and be able to see the tornado or not. Still, we really couldn't see anything as we're driving along. But you could tell there was likely a wedge in there, right? It was a big tornado. So let's stop right here. It's a good spot to stop. And Reed pops out of the hatch and started trying to get the rocket to get all set up to be able to launch. I was hanging out the passenger side of Dominator, looking over the roof at him and the rocket, and then I got the storm just behind him. And there wasn't even a countdown or anything. It kind of caught me by surprise. And all of a sudden, the rocket takes off. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're shooting, right? So I try to film the rocket. It disappears up into the sky. Still, you couldn't really tell. You could tell that there was probably a wedge there, but there was no defined, the hard edge on the sides or anything like that. But just big, massive rain. You could see is wrapping around, coming around, and then eventually it got close enough, and you could tell there was a wedge in there. You can start hearing it. It crosses the road right behind us. Power lines start power flashing behind us. So then you definitely knew the wedge was there. It gets a little bit to our east. Across the road, and you could hear the roar of it. You could see debris. It was flying around, so we knew there was a giant wedge in there. Meanwhile, Mark's in the back. Mark Simpson, he's the guy behind all the electronics for tracking. So with the point of the rocket was there was a probe attached to it, sending radio transmissions with capturing data like humidity, dew point, temperature. It's what its altitude was and all that.
Yeah.
And so Mark's has that thing talking back to him, watching on his iPad. We see data streaming in, and tried to keep up with the wedge, but couldn't keep up with it. It goes off to the east. Then we end up the probe had a parachute attached to it, so it ends up traveling like 30 miles or something like that. Up in this, it gets lofted up way up into the atmosphere with the tornado and the storm.
Yeah.
And it ends up being found a few days later. Someone found it and got a hold of Reed, and Reed ended up flying back to get it. But it was really, it was an incredible experience. Like I said, Twister kind of started me off with severe weather or just storm chasing in general.
Yeah.
And then the movie, if you've seen it, they're trying to get probes and collect data. So it was real life Twister. So it's pretty surreal experience.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
What's your favorite storm setup to chase? Like tornadoes, structure?
Definitely tornadoes. And specifically, I like dry line setups just because you get beautifully sculpted storms. So if you don't get a tornado, at least you'll likely get a nice photogenic storm to shoot a time lapse or something like that.
Sure. So as storm chasers, we all have that one special storm or tornado that just kind of sticks with us for the rest of our life. What would yours be?
I mean, there's been a lot of them, but I don't think any of them top in the past. Maybe something in the future will top it, but it was definitely that Scarf 2019 tornado and storm. Just how incredible of a storm it was with the really dry, clear slot and no rain around it and just perfectly sculpted, and the tornado going all the way up into the atmosphere, up through the tornado to updraft is just one piece all the way up into the atmosphere. So that one's a tough one to beat. That might be the best one I ever see. So
yeah, I think all three of us are in that boat right now.
Whenever you talk about it, I can just look up at the pictures on the wall behind it here.
Yeah, I just recently Michelle got me Oculus 3D goggles, VR goggles for Christmas. And so I've been watching that because I shot that tornado in 360 in VR.
All right.
So it's like being there again, standing on top of the car and being able to look up and see it again. It's like, it's really like being there again.
Oh, I've got a
pretty cool.
crappy set of VR goggles in the house. I know what I'm doing after the podcast.
Yeah. Go to my YouTube channel. You can watch it on there. It's in 4K too. So it's 360 4K. So it's not like, it's not going to be like your traditional video 4K and look as nice as that, but it's pretty decent for what it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I shot the Tahoka, Texas tornado in 360, and that's a pretty cool video too.
Oh, nice. That's on YouTube?
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
So what came first then, the photography, videography, or storm chasing?
Definitely storm chasing. I started storm chasing in the 90s. Didn't know what I was doing. I was in high school and chased on the side when I had a full-time job. But I never, I didn't get my first camera until like 2012, and that was just a video camera. And I didn't get my first still camera until a few years later after that. And then wasn't too into the still camera until a couple of years after that. So really got into still photography around 2016, 17, videography around 2012. But I was chasing all up, and before that, I just didn't shoot any video or pictures.
Just didn't document anything.
No, I didn't. I had a friend that would chase, and he was into photography, and so he would shoot some shots, and I was like, man, that's what we saw. That's incredible, It's like I need to figure out how to start doing that. So yeah, definitely storm chasing. Then came the photography.
So would you consider storm chasing an addiction?
I mean, it's not necessarily. No, I wouldn't call it that. If it is, I would call it it's a good addiction. There's
Well, it doesn't have no, absolutely doesn't have to be bad. But
yeah, I mean, it is addicting, I guess. But
could you do without it?
Yeah, I could do without it now. I've done it enough that I've seen a lot and I've been a lot of places, and I'm sure that after away for a while, it would come back. The urge to really get out there would come back, and it would be hard to miss stuff and whatnot. But
I can almost see your eye twitching as you say that. Yeah, I could do without it.
For me, it's less. It's not really addiction. It's more. I'd rather coin it as a lifestyle. So
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's totally fair.
So you may have already kind of answered this one, but what has been your greatest accomplishment as a storm chaser to date?
Greatest accomplishment. Well, I would say I have two answers for that. My first one is more storm chaser related, and that's being there for that scarf shot. I feel like that was a really good accomplishment. And the shots, the video that I got, like everything clicked. I shot, my 360 camera. I got some still shots of it. I shot.
You got the beard flowing.
Yeah, and that I got the selfie in front of it. I nailed every shot for that storm.
Yeah.
But it was storm chasing that I wouldn't have my son Jet today, in my opinion, if it wasn't for storm chasing, because that's how Shayla and I met, was through storm chasing. And then so I would say my son is my biggest accomplishment. For sure.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even want to ask the next question. What's your biggest disappointment of storm chasing then?
Biggest disappointment? Probably a bust, and the bust that stands out for me the most is it was May 1st, 2018, I want to say. Yeah, May 1st, 2018. And I was in Kansas, and I was chasing I think it was a dry line setup that day. But I had really forecasted my starting position really well. I ended up being on what turns out to be the storm of the day. I was on it from when it initiated, basically nothing. I was on it from the very get-go until it looked like it was falling apart, and it just went to it went to crap. It didn't look good at all. And then meanwhile, I started seeing these photographs of this photogenic LP supercell south of there, deeper into south in Kansas. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to probably leave this storm and go check out the storm that's further south. That's photogenic. Probably won't produce a tornado, but it looks really nice. So I start heading south to that storm, and I get to that storm. And meanwhile, the storm that I was originally on got its act together. It's the Tescott, Kansas tornado. It gets its act together and just starts, produces a monster tornado. Pretty photogenic too. But I would have been on it. I would have been right there because I was on that storm and I left it. And that, of all the busts I've ever had, that one hurts the most. That one still sticks with me. I still, have nightmares about that one.
I'm pretty sure you're not the only person who did that, though. I feel like there was a lot of people that.
Yeah, there were a lot of people
south.
Yeah, there were. I wasn't the only one. The funny thing is that when I was bailing south, I saw a few chasers that were bailing north. And I was like questioning myself. I'm like, maybe I should go back north. I was too hard-headed. Yeah.
Is that a new radar image? What am I looking at?
Yeah, but I was like too hard-headed, and I was like, I already committed. I'm going south. Screw this, And then ends up producing a tornado. So.
So you're one of the few storm chasers who have been lucky enough to be able to make a career out of it with my radar. Can you tell us what it's like actually having storm chasing be your full-time job? And other than the money, what is the biggest difference between career storm chasers and chasers who are just out there because they enjoy it?
I would say, so first of all, the biggest, it's exhausting because you're chasing everything. So it's nonstop, year round, constantly chasing. That being said, I also love that part of it as well, because I love, being out there and chasing, and I love what I do. but it is exhausting. And then that would be the biggest difference between, I would say, between, you know, someone that's out there just for fun and someone like me that's doing it full time is I'm chasing a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't chase because they don't need to, right? They're just, they can if they want to, but they don't because it's not a, you know, it's not a bang up setup or something like that. It's a low risk day. But that being said, you know, I started chasing full time, you know, before I had a partnership with My Radar. I was just, you know, I had saved up for years and, you know, made some good investments and whatnot to be able to set myself into a position to where I could start doing it full time, basically paying my own salary, but making some money on the side here and there. So, you know, I did that because I realized that, if you want to see all the best tornadoes, you got to be out there for basically every setup, right? Because a lot of times the best ones happen on the non-likely days, the days that don't look like they're gonna, just like Scarth. Scarth didn't look that good that day, but I was like, I'm gonna go out anyway because I mean, why not, right? But I almost, you know, I was always going to, but I was like, I remember that day I texted Michelle. I was looking at models and stuff, and I texted Michelle. I was like, well, I guess we should go now, you know, type of thing. Because I was exhausted. It was August. It was towards the end of the severe season. So I was just, you know, had seen a lot. I mean, look at my hair and stuff in that video. You know, I'm unshaved and I just look like the wreck, right? So
how do you think the weather patterns are changing Tornado Alley? Do you think it's moving further north? Do you think it's happening more frequently, longer season? Like what do you think the weather's doing to that?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of drought problems and then the Great Plains, you know, western part of the, you know, high plains, northern plains. So because of that drought, you're not seeing as many tornadoes and you're seeing more of the tornadoes. A lot of it's shifting to the east where there's better moisture. Again, like I was saying earlier, what do I look for in a chase setup? Well, I always start with the moisture, follow the moisture, because unless you have moisture, you're probably not going to have tornadoes. So unless you get into the high plains and then, you know, because of the elevation change, you don't need as much moisture to be able to get those tornadoes and those storms to form. So, but yeah, I would say, you know, I think it's shifting a little bit to the east. But, you know, if the moisture returns and the drought goes away, you know, I think great, you know, Tornado Alley, like it traditionally was, I think that can light up again, just, you know, as just it has in the past. Yeah. But like there hasn't been that. I mentioned the tornado of 2012, the Heston, Kansas one that day. I mean, that was early on in my chase career, full-time chase career, not even full-time then, but early on in my chase career where I was going multi-state chases. And that was a high risk day. And the amount of supercells that formed on that day, it was just, you know, it was like, just like what I saw when I was growing up and watching, you know, the Weather Channel and stuff. Right. And I was like, oh man, this is great. This is going to happen all the time. Right. And I haven't seen a good warm sector set up like that since then. So
why did TV lie to me?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten too close to a tornado?
Well, I've been inside a couple of tornadoes. So,
yeah. Have you ever been close enough that you felt uncomfortable?
Not really. Like I was inside the McCook tornado, so on foot basically. So it formed right on top of me. I was with Reed that day, and we were out watching this thing, and it was almost like we were. We weren't saying anything, but it was like we were like, we're
side eyeing each other.
Playing chicken with the tornado, right? Like, are you going to move? Are you going to move? No, we're going to stay here and just take this thing, right? And so, because we're seeing like, you know, brief spin ups as it's approaching us, but I think we were both really mesmerized by it. And also it was, it did look like it would plant on us because it looked like it was going to pass just to our north. And then, but the rotation formed in the ground was offset from where the rotation was, and it formed right on top of us basically. So I was in that one. And then again, Reed and I intercepted one this past May near Benjamin, Texas, where we were right on the edge of the vortex, and you know, ghost trains ripping in basically over the top of us. So there's that one. I think there was another one there somewhere as well, but
so the answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you ever chase nocturnal tornadoes? And if so, are there any extra precautions you take while doing so?
Yeah, definitely chase nocturnal. I like the, when you chase a lot, at least for me, I look for ways to make things more challenging. So I enjoy the challenge of the nocturnal chase, just like I enjoy the challenge of chasing in the Southeast, Dixie Alley and stuff like that, where a lot of people don't want to chase. Like
Yeah.
I like that challenge. More times than not, I don't see a tornado, but that's kind of, why it keeps taking me back, because I want to conquer that territory. So, and I have seen tornadoes there in Dixie Alley, but yeah. So, I like the challenge. I like to challenge myself. And for nocturnal tornadoes, just recently, it was the December 10th outbreak. That was largely nocturnal. And then again in December 15th was nocturnal. So, and basically what I'm trying to do to differently is, I guess I'm a little bit more cautious with my positioning, whereas the daytime, like I'll just get right underneath the base, and odds are it's probably not going to plan on me. And if it does, like that's great, because it's it's hard, it's hard to intercept tornadoes, right? And see tornadoes. They don't happen that often. So I could only be so lucky that one, plants right on top of me. But at night I'm a little less cavalier that way. I'll creep in more, and because I'm watching the lightning, because the daytime I can see around if there's something coming or not. At night you can't see, right? Except between lightning flashes. So that would be kind of the difference at nocturnal. It's just a little bit more cautious.
So I'm scared to even ask then, but what's your scariest moment been chasing tornadoes?
I guess would be probably Canton, Texas, 2017. That was the nastiest, scariest tornado I've seen. And it was in tall trees there in East Texas. It was an EF4. It was a wedge, and it was moving really fast and coming right at me. Right, I was right in the path of it. So I had to move out of the way. I was able to get out of the way plenty of time, but it was a little nerve wracking, because once I moved away, I found this field where I had a good open view across the field and could see the tornado, but everywhere else around that was just tall trees everywhere. So once I decided to move to get out of the path of the tornado, I couldn't see the tornado anymore. So that was a little bit, of a scary moment, I guess.
A little unnerving.
Yeah, exactly.
So when it comes to cameras, what's your favorite brand and why?
Well, I've been shooting Fuji, and I guess I like Fuji because everybody is all about Canons and Nikons, and I like to be a little bit different from the crowd. So I started getting into Fuji. I didn't see any other storm chasers that were shooting Fuji, so I'm going to be the Fuji guy. So, so yeah.
What would the longest or the most miles you've traveled for a single chase be, or in a single chase?
Most miles I've traveled, I mean, it's pushing around 1,000 miles. I've driven. In fact, I busted one time last year. I drove from here in Manitoba all the way down to almost the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, and I don't even know if I may have stopped somewhere for the night for this one, but it ended up being a bust. It not even any storms formed. There's been plenty of chases where I've driven, 500, 600 miles, drive 7 hours just to get to the target, show up right as the storms start forming. And I used to do this all the time when I was still working full time and I had a job and I lived in Austin, Texas. I'd leave Austin, Texas, like 6 a.m., let's say, and drive 7 hours to a target area. In one particular chase, it was north of Amarillo that I drove. I left that morning. I arrived in Dalhart, Texas. It was the Eva, Oklahoma tornadoes in, I think, 2016, and drove 7 hours, chased for like 4 hours. And then in some of those days, I had to drive 7 hours back home. So 14, I was doing, I've done 20-hour days just chasing I get home till like 4 a.m. So almost, 24 hours of driving and chasing.
Oh, that's gross. There's no way to describe that, but gross.
Yeah.
Well, doing something like that, it's probably pretty silly to ask, but what's your favorite state or province to chase in? I'm going to guess you've got about 15 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to pick just one. Probably my favorite place anywhere to chase would be the Oklahoma Panhandle. So Western Oklahoma Panhandle. It's just wide open, and there's these real beautiful grasslands out there and a really nice grid road network. So that's probably of all the if I had to pick just one, it would be that. But I like lots of different places for different reasons, like I like New Mexico because you got the desert landscape and you get these real high based storms and incredible lightning. And I like the high plains for kind of the similar reason. You don't have the desert landscape as much, but you get these real beautiful photogenic storms. But if I had to pick one spot, it would definitely be that Western Oklahoma Panhandle.
Awesome.
Well, before we move on to our next thing, it looks like we have a question, something to do with 360 video. We're just waiting for her response to let us know what she wants to ask.
Well, we can ask that after the questions. We can keep going. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Oh.
So Karen would like to know, she said you have a whole playlist of 360 videos. Do you have any tips or pros and cons, any favorite gear for recording 360 videos?
Yeah, so what I'm shooting with right now, it's a GoPro Max 360 camera. And before that, I was shooting the GoPro Fusion. So those are I've only tried the GoPro brand of 360 cameras. As far as tips, one of the things the 360 cameras aren't cheap. They're like, I think when they're brand new and they first come out, they're like $500-$600. And eventually they reduce the price as they're out longer, maybe down to like $300 or $400. But I've lost one before because of big hail, and so since then I weaved my own little tethering rope, and so I tether it down to the vehicle. I have a rack on top of the vehicle, so I'll tether it down to that. So if it does get knocked off by hail, it's still strapped to the car. So that would be my biggest tip for that.
So I do the same thing with my little GoPro for the top of the minivan. I've got a little tiny bathtub chain that I've tied to both parts. So you mount it that way. When it gets knocked off, at least it's still bouncing there.
Yeah, exactly. I've had that happen before, and but my car's already got all kinds of dents, so I don't really care if add a couple more from the camera or not.
It's a lot better than having to replace the camera.
Yeah, exactly. Now that I've gotten the VR goggles and where I see, I think, like metaverse and virtual reality and all that, we haven't even scratched the surface of that, and watching my videos with actual VR goggles has been kind of not life-changing for me, but it's like
eye-opening.
Eye-opening. I'm really glad. I knew that eventually it would pay off to do the 360 videos, and now I'm actually starting to see that because I probably have the most extensive 360, at least tornado collection, on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
So it's and now that I've got the goggles, I want to shoot more. It's like that's like my almost that I want to just shoot 360 exclusively, and eventually I'd love to be able to start live streaming 360 and people can put on their goggles and watch the chase in 360. Right?
If you start doing that, I'm gonna quit chasing.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of 360 live streaming, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you'd think that would
basically.
That's the problem, is it uses a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was gonna say.
And it's going to be low quality, so it's really, I think we're still a ways off from it. But once we get Starlink out there as a storm chaser, we could connect the Starlink with your mobile.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be a game changer.
Exactly. That should start opening up some really high quality, live streaming capabilities, especially for 360. So
the second Starlink is mobile.
Basically, virtual friggin' storm chasing tour.
It's exactly
gonna have to bleep that out, but yeah, virtual storm chasing tours for people that want to experience but not come in the vehicle.
Exactly.
So I am no longer the only one that has been bleeped on this show. That's
I made it 6 episodes.
Giant step for me.
Just giving myself some work to do. So You know what that sound means, Curtis?
I do. That's time for our game show. And tonight's game show, we're going to change it up a bit because our Guess the Tornado game show has not really been that successful. It's either way too hard or way too easy. So we're going to try something a little different. We're going to give Aaron some lightning trivia. So what's going to happen is I think we've got 10 questions. So they're all true or false. So we're just going to rip through them, and we're going to see if you know that much about lightning or not.
Okay.
Are you
And
scared?
What's that?
Are you scared? Because they're pretty
No.
tough.
I'm ready to go. I'm pumped.
And I would like to add that this game was completely Curtis's idea, so if it ends up being really good, you're in charge of the game shows from here on out.
I hope it fails. All right.
All right.
Oh, nope. Jordan gets question 1. I'll stop.
Yeah. So all the answers, they're true or false. So number 1 is more men than women die from lightning each year in the USA. True or false?
True.
Hold on. Where's my thing?
That's a good horn.
Statistics from the National Weather Service gives figures of around 80% male to 20% female. This is partly explained by the highest risk outdoor activity being fishing. Although the report also mentions that men are less aware of the dangers, basically dudes are dumb.
Yeah. Fishing and golf.
Yeah.
So Greek and Roman temples were often erected at sites where lightning struck. True or false?
False. Ooh.
That is true. They worshipped gods there wherever the lightning struck in an attempt to appease them.
Interesting. That's a lot of work.
Right?
Gotta go random places to drop a building.
One good storm goes through, there's 50 buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like that derecho a couple weeks ago. That one had thousands of lightning strikes. A single lightning strike can kill several people who are in physical contact with one another or are in close enough range that the strike can spread out over the ground. True or false?
True.
This is especially dangerous at sporting events. This could include spectators sitting on the same bleacher seat or football players in a huddle.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I've seen it happen to cows, and they're all in a feeder, and then there's just a ring of dead cows because that feed thing got shot or struck.
A couple of years ago, Garth Brooks came to Regina to play at the New Taylor Field, and a storm came through, and they had everyone pushed into the corridors, and people were so mad. And this is exactly why. Because there was lightning everywhere, and people are just freaking out and mad, and
yeah,
they just don't get it.
No, a bunch of people close together, all wet. That's not a good
right. So the safest thing that you can do if you're outside and there's lightning is get into a hard-topped, all-metal vehicle and assume that you have many options available, like buildings or ditches or whatever.
So
the safest option would be to get into a vehicle
instead of going into like a house.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, false then.
That's right. You should first go inside a completely covered building. Your
Yeah.
second choice should be the vehicle.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was pretty high up the list. I figured the vehicle would be a lot lower down than second down the list.
Huh.
Oh, accidentally pushed the key. My bad. That'll get edited out. If you're in the mountains and lightning begins to strike, you should quickly get below the tree line and get into a grove of small trees.
That's my only option?
Yep.
I guess so, yep.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I'll say true.
So true, make absolutely sure that you are not standing next to a tall tree when you're in the mountains. If you're standing next to a tall tree, you are more likely to get struck by lightning than if you are in a small group of trees.
Yeah. Agreed.
Telephone lines are extremely dangerous during a storm. True or false?
True.
These are all too easy.
That was a pretty easy one, Curtis.
That one.
Yeah.
That's true. Along with phone lines, you should stay away from TVs, electrical outlets, showers, and baths until the storm is past.
This one's a little more difficult. Lightning strike survivors often have difficulty with short-term memory. True or false?
True.
They also can have trouble with coding new information and accessing old information, multitasking, distractibility, irritability, and experience personality change.
Which makes me feel like I've been struck by lightning.
Yeah. Me too.
So lightning can and often does strike in the same place twice.
True.
True. Tall buildings and monuments are frequently hit by lightning.
A person who is struck by lightning can hold an electric charge and must not be touched for 5 minutes after being struck before beginning first aid.
False.
False. Victims of lightning do not retain the charge and are not electrified. It is safe to help them.
All right. We need to get you to get at least one more wrong one. So if there's no shelter, you should crouch on the balls of your feet in the open, keeping twice as far away from a tree as it is tall. So say there's a 10-foot tree and stay 20 feet away from it.
True.
This is true. If you get caught in a level field far from shelter, you should crouch down on the balls of your feet immediately with your feet together and place your arms around your knees and bend forward.
Yeah, you want to reduce the amount of body that's in contact with the ground.
Be the smallest target possible and at the same time minimize your contact with the ground.
Oh,
Do not lie flat. You did. It's okay. I'd switch pages. So that was a total failure. You got 9 out of 10 right.
Yeah, I should have got that second one right too. I thought you might have thrown a trick one in there for me.
So I'm going to ask our viewers what we should be doing for a game show because we do not know apparently. So before we end the night, where can people find you on social media, Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm really prevalent on Twitter during chases. So like I tweet out and stuff. So Aaron Jayjack on Twitter, at Aaron Jayjack on Twitter. But I also do a lot of live streaming to YouTube. So I'm live streaming when I can. I try to live stream the whole chase. So like just recently, I like that derecho event. I had a live stream up for like 9 hours. So so people can find me on YouTube. And you just search Aaron Jayjack, find my channel there and subscribe. And then I am at Aaron Jayjack on all the other social medias, basically TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc.
The TikTok. Oh,
I don't do much. I haven't done much on TikTok yet, but I do have an account there. So
no thirst traps.
No what?
No thirst traps.
Thirst traps? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, you don't do much on TikTok.
No.
And you can follow us on our socials on Twitter at PDS Podcast. You can follow Jordan at Manitoba Storm Chasers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can follow me at 706 Photos everywhere. Please subscribe to your show on your favorite podcast app. And if your player lets you, leave us a review because that helps us get found by the search engines.
And make sure you become a supporter on Facebook for the chance to win exclusive merch and prizes. And don't forget to head over to mbstorm.redbubble.com for, I guess, not your holiday shopping, but your Boxing Week shopping now. Make sure you tune in for episode 7 live on January 11th with special guest Chris St. Clair. Also, we'll be hosting a live New Year's Eve countdown party on Facebook and YouTube on December 31st from 10 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. CST. So make sure you tune in for that as well. And thank you again to Aaron for joining us tonight. And happy holidays, everyone. And we'll see you on New Year's Eve.